The day my husband married his pregnant childhood sweetheart, I stood at the back of the church clutching the hand of our 5-year-old daughter and the DNA test proving the child wasn't his. As he recited his vows, my phone vibrated with the notification I'd been waiting for. $2.7 million had just landed in my offshore account. I hadn't stolen his money. I'd earned it by keeping his darkest secret for 7 years. And now, as I let our daughter out into the sunlight, I had just 24 hours before he discovered we were gone, along with the evidence that could destroy everything he'd built. Lily tugged at my hand as we slipped out the heavy oak doors of St. Andrew's Cathedral. "Mommy, why is Daddy saying those special words to Ms. Vanessa and not you?" I swallowed hard, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Remember how we talked about this, sweetheart? Daddy and I aren't going to be married anymore." Her bottom lip trembled. "But Miss Vanessa is mean. She called my drawing stupid." I knelt down, tucking a strand of honey blonde hair behind my daughter's ear, so much like her father's it made my chest ache. "That wasn't very nice of her, was it? But today we're going on our special adventure just like we planned." I winked at her and she gave me a conspiratorial smile, momentarily forgetting the ceremony behind us. 6 months ago my life had been perfect, or so I thought. Nathan and I had built everything together, from our boutique investment firm to our craftsman-style dream home overlooking Lake Washington. For 7 years we'd been partners in every sense of the word. I'd believed our love was unshakable, especially after the difficult birth of Lily when doctors told me I couldn't have more children. Then Vanessa Matthews waltzed back into Seattle and into Nathan's life. "It's nothing, Eliza. Just catching up with an old friend," he'd said the first time I questioned the late-night texts and sudden client dinners that kept him away from home. I stared at my phone, confirming the transfer had completed successfully. Not stolen, reclaimed. The sleepless nights I'd spent restructuring failing investments that Nathan had nearly tanked. The clients I'd soothed and saved when his recklessness threatened our reputation. The tears I'd dried and the bruises I'd kissed when Nathan was too busy to attend Lily's kindergarten performances. "Are we going to the castle now, Mommy?" Lily's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Soon, baby. First we need to make one more stop." I helped her into our SUV, packed with only what truly mattered, and started the engine. 3 months after Vanessa's return, Nathan had come home smelling of her perfume, his expression a mixture of guilt and exhilaration. "I need to talk to you," he'd said, sitting on the edge of our bed, the bed we'd picked out together on our 5th anniversary. "Vanessa's pregnant. It's mine." The words had sliced through me like shards of glass, each syllable drawing blood. "That's impossible," I'd whispered. "You've only reconnected with her for a few months." His jaw had clenched. We had one night when I was in Chicago for the Henderson acquisition, before we started seeing each other again. The time frame didn't add up, but Nathan wouldn't hear it. He'd made his choice before he'd even walked through the door that night. 3 weeks later he asked for a divorce. I navigated through Seattle's midday traffic, glancing occasionally at Lily in the rearview mirror as she hummed softly to herself, clutching her favorite stuffed elephant. My phone rang, Marcus's name flashing on the screen. "Is it done?" His voice was tense. "Yes. Final transfer confirmed. Nathan will notice by tomorrow morning at the latest when the Hong Kong markets open." "I know." My voice was steadier than I felt. "Did you send the documents?" "Just as we planned. Time-delayed email to the SEC, copies to the Seattle Times and Washington Post." "Are you sure about this, Eliza? There's no going back." I thought about last week when Nathan had missed Lily's birthday, her 5th birthday, because he was picking out engagement rings with Vanessa. I remembered finding my daughter crying in her closet, still wearing her party dress at midnight, waiting for a father who never showed. "I'm sure." I pulled into the parking lot of Westlake Credit Union. "I have to go. One last thing to take care of." Inside, the bank manager greeted me with a smile. "Mrs. Bishop, your safe deposit box is ready." In the private room, I placed the USB drive containing Nathan's parallel accounting books, the recordings of his threats, and copies of falsified documents bearing my forged signature into the box. Alongside it, I placed an envelope addressed to the FBI's White-Collar Crimes Division, insurance in case anything happened to me. "Mommy, I'm hungry," Lily announced as we returned to the car. "Me too, sweetheart." I checked my watch. The ceremony would be over by now. Nathan and Vanessa would be arriving at the Four Seasons for their reception, where my absence would surely be noticed. Not that Nathan had wanted me there. It would be awkward, he'd said. It was Vanessa who had insisted, her final victory lap. She wanted witnesses to her triumph. What she didn't know was that I had already won. As I drove toward the interstate, my mind flashed back to the day everything truly broke. Nathan had come to collect some files from home. I'd asked about the custody arrangement once our divorce was finalized. His response still burned in my memory. Be reasonable, Eliza. With the new baby coming and our expansion into Asia, I won't have time for weekend visitations. Maybe boarding school would be best for Lily. Give her structure. In that moment I knew. The man I'd loved was gone, if he had ever truly existed. I glanced at our daughter, now dozing in her car seat, and pressed the accelerator. We had 24 hours before Nathan would discover exactly what I'd taken from him, and what I'd left behind to destroy him. The safe was hidden behind a false panel in Nathan's home office closet. I'd discovered it by accident 3 weeks ago while searching for our marriage certificate, another document Nathan had conveniently misplaced when his attorney requested it. My fingers trembled as I spun the dial, using the combination I'd memorized after watching Nathan open it countless times. Vanessa's birthday. How had I not seen the signs? The heavy door swung open with a soft click, revealing stacks of documents, several USB drives and a leather-bound ledger. I recognized it immediately, Nathan's personal record book, the one he'd always joked was for his eyes only. Mommy's secrets, Lily had called them when she was 3, not understanding that every family had boundaries. Now at 5 she was learning that some secrets destroyed families. I flipped through the ledger's pages, my heart pounding as columns of numbers and coded entries revealed themselves. Client names were abbreviated, but I recognized enough to understand what I was looking at. Systematic fraud, hidden accounts, and money that should have gone to our investors diverted to shell companies. My financial background had been what attracted Nathan to me in the first place. We'd met at Columbia Business School, me on scholarship, him on family money. When we graduated, it was my strategic thinking and market instincts that helped launch Bishop Financial Partners. While Nathan schmoozed clients with his family connections and charm, I built the investment models that delivered results. You're the brains, I'm the face, he'd say proudly in those early days, his arm wrapped around my waist at industry events. By brilliant Eliza. The ledger revealed a different story. For at least 3 years, Nathan had been cooking the books, using my algorithms to identify which transactions could be manipulated without raising flags. My work, my reputation had become his tool for fraud. A text message lit up my phone. Marcus, V just posted wedding pics. You need to see this. I opened the link to find a photo of Nathan feeding Vanessa cake, both laughing. The caption read, "Finally married my soulmate after 15 years apart. Some loves are meant to be. #Destiny wins. 15 years. Their supposed separation had been a cornerstone of Nathan's explanation. Childhood sweethearts torn apart by circumstance, reunited by fate. But 15 years ago Nathan was dating his college girlfriend. I'd seen the photos. I'd met her at alumni events. Another lie. I returned to the ledger, flipping to recent entries. A notation caught my eye. Client X final payment, V's security. The amount, $2.7 million. Exactly what I'd transferred to my offshore account today. My blood ran cold. Client X appeared repeatedly throughout the ledger, always with substantial amounts and cryptic notations. I photographed every page, my hands shaking. 3 hours later, I emerged from the office with the ledger and 2 USB drives hidden in my laptop bag. As I locked up, headlights swept across the driveway. Nathan's Audi. I froze. He wasn't supposed to be here. The wedding reception would still be ongoing. Hide and seek, Mommy. Lily whispered excitedly from the hallway, misinterpreting my panic. Yes, sweetie, I whispered back, grateful for her intuition. Quick, let's hide in the pantry until Daddy goes away. We slipped into the walk-in pantry just as the front door opened. Through the slats, I watched Nathan enter with Vanessa, both still in their wedding attire. I just need to grab the envelope for the honeymoon, he said, heading toward his office. Vanessa wandered into the kitchen, her pregnant belly leading the way. She ran her fingers along the marble countertops I'd selected, opening cabinets and drawers as if taking inventory. "We should redecorate," she called out. "This place has Eliza written all over it." Nathan emerged from the office, a thick envelope in hand. "Whatever you want. But first, 2 weeks in Bali." Vanessa grinned, placing her hands on her stomach. "Baby Bishop needs a vacation before the real work begins." I clamped my hand over my mouth to stifle a gasp. The DNA test in my purse proved the baby wasn't Nathan's, but that didn't mean it wasn't a Bishop. The pieces suddenly aligned. The coded entries for Client X. Nathan's father, Xavier Bishop, chairman of Bishop Holdings and a man with known connections to Seattle's political machine. The man who'd never approved of me, who'd tried to have Nathan sign a prenup the night before our wedding. "Did you handle the Eliza situation?" Vanessa asked, her voice hardening. Nathan sighed. "The agreement's ready. After the honeymoon she'll sign over her company shares and the house. Dad's guy says she won't have a choice once we present the evidence." "Evidence?" Vanessa laughed. "You mean those doctored photos of her with that hedge fund manager? Xavier is brilliant." "Let's not talk about this here," Nathan said, glancing around uncomfortably. They left moments later, the sound of the Audi fading into the distance. I emerged from the pantry, my mind racing. "Lily, baby, change of plans. We're leaving right now." "But what about Mr. Snuggles?" Her lower lip trembled at the thought of leaving her stuffed elephant collection. "We'll take the special ones," I promised, helping her select 3 favorites. As we packed, my phone rang again. "Marcus. Nathan's father was at the reception," he said without preamble. "He was asking about you, about whether you'd accessed any company files recently." "They're setting me up," I whispered, the full scope of their plan becoming clear. "They're going to frame me for the fraud." "Eliza, this is bigger than we thought. I've been digging into Client X transactions." "It's Xavier," I interrupted. "Nathan's father." A heavy pause. "That explains a lot. Eliza, these people are dangerous. The Kingston Fund collapsed last year. 3 people died in accidents after they threatened to talk." I looked at Lily, innocently tucking her elephants into her backpack, and made my decision. "The plan accelerates. We leave tonight. It's not Nathan's baby." Detective Reyes slid the DNA test results across the cafe table 3 days before the wedding. The private investigator's weathered face showed no emotion, but his eyes held a hint of sympathy. I stared at the paper, scientific proof of what my instincts had been screaming. The dates, the timelines, none of it had made sense. "Are you sure?" My voice sounded distant even to my own ears. "The lab ran it twice. Hair sample from your husband's brush, blood work from Ms. Matthews' regular OBGYN visits." He didn't elaborate on how he'd obtained the latter. "0 chance of paternity." I folded the paper carefully, sliding it into my purse. "Thank you." "Mrs. Bishop," Reyes hesitated, "there's something else. The men Ms. Matthews meets with when your husband is traveling, one of them matches the time window for conception." My coffee turned bitter on my tongue. "Who?" "James Bishop. Your husband's younger brother." The ground seemed to shift beneath me. James, the family's black sheep, constantly in Nathan's shadow, always seeking his father's approval. The same James who'd made uncomfortable passes at me at family gatherings, who'd made a point of telling me how Nathan had stolen Vanessa from him in high school. I paid Reyes and walked numbly to my car, pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. The hushed phone calls. The family tension. Xavier Bishop's sudden enthusiasm about the pregnancy. They all knew. Later that evening I confronted Nathan in his study, placing the DNA report on his desk. "What's this?" He barely glanced up from his laptop. "Proof the baby isn't yours." My voice was steady, calmer than I felt. He finally looked at the paper, his expression shifting from annoyance to surprise, then, most tellingly, to calculation rather than shock. "You had me investigated?" His voice rose, ignoring the evidence before him. "You're spying on me now? Jesus, Eliza, you're becoming unhinged." "Nathan, look at the results. The baby can't be yours." He stood abruptly, sending his chair crashing backward. "This is exactly your problem. You can't stand that I'm happy with Vanessa, so you manufacture this garbage." He crumpled the report, throwing it across the room. "It's James's baby, isn't it?" I whispered. The color drained from his face, replaced by cold fury. "You're being hysterical. This conversation is over. Why are you doing this? Why pretend it's yours when you know it's not? Get out, he roared, slamming his fist on the desk with such force that a framed photo of us fell, the glass shattering. I backed away, truly afraid of him for the first time in our marriage, and fled to Zora's apartment. Zora Singh had been my roommate at Columbia before becoming one of the top digital security specialists in the Pacific Northwest. Her tiny apartment was crowded with computers and exotic plants, offering both technical expertise and much-needed warmth. "He's gaslighting you," she said after hearing my story, her dark eyes flashing with anger. "Classic abuser behavior, making you question your own reality. But why? If he loves Vanessa, why not just divorce me and be with her? Why this elaborate lie about the baby?" Zora's fingers flew across her keyboard. "Money, power, image. Pick one. Men like Nathan never do anything without calculating the benefit." She spun her monitor toward me. "Look what I found." On screen was a confidential Bishop financial memo, detailing a potential merger with Eastridge Capital, Nathan's biggest competitor and a firm that would never deal with someone involved in a messy divorce or paternity scandal. "The merger depends on Nathan's family man image," Zora explained. "A pregnant new wife is fine if it's his baby. A scandalous affair with his brother's ex would tank the deal." "How did you get this?" She winked. "Let's just say their firewall could use an upgrade." The next morning I returned home to find papers spread across our kitchen island. Nathan stood with his attorney Martin Wells, a shark in an expensive suit. "Perfect timing," Nathan said coolly. "These need your signature." I glanced at the documents: transfers of my company shares to Nathan, relinquishment of claims to our properties, a custody arrangement limiting my time with Lily. "I'm not signing these." Martin cleared his throat. "Mrs. Bishop, given the circumstances, this is more than generous." "What circumstances?" Nathan slid a folder toward me. Inside were photos of me with Marcus Reynolds, our operations director. Innocent business lunches manipulated to look intimate, timestamps altered to suggest an ongoing affair. "You fabricated these," I said, my voice shaking. "The board won't care if they're real," Nathan replied. "Neither will the judge when I file for full custody based on your moral character." That night, after tucking Lily into bed, I discovered my signature forged on company documents I'd never seen, backdated authorizations for the fraudulent transactions in Nathan's ledger. They'd created a paper trail, making me the scapegoat. Lily began having nightmares, waking screaming about the mean lady taking her away. Vanessa had been whispering to her, telling her that Mommy might have to go away for a long time. The final straw came a week before the wedding. I was working late at the office, trying to secretly document Nathan's fraud, when I heard shouting from the conference room. Through the glass walls I watched Nathan grab Daniel Kim, our compliance officer, by the collar. "If you breathe a word about those transactions, I'll destroy you," Nathan hissed. "Remember what happened to Peterson when he got cold feet?" Peterson, our former CFO who died in a hiking accident last year. That night I called Marcus from a burner phone. "I need your help," I said, my decision made. "It's time to take everything from him." Rain lashed against the windows of my downtown condo, the separation apartment Nathan had generously allowed me to use while our divorce proceeded. Lightning flashed, illuminating the recording device hidden in the potted fern beside my couch. Everything was in place. When Nathan arrived, he was already agitated, pacing the small living room like a caged predator. "Did you speak to the Westlake investors?" he demanded without preamble. "Hello to you too," I replied calmly, pressing the silent activation button on my phone. "Would you like a drink?" "I don't have time for pleasantries." "Did you contact them?" "You mean, did I tell them their money is being funneled into Xavier's pet projects instead of the tech startups they were promised?" "Oh, Nathan." "Not yet." His eyes narrowed dangerously. "What game are you playing, Eliza?" "No game. Just sorting through some interesting documents I found. The Jensen portfolio transfers, the backdated contracts, the shell companies in Belize." I kept my voice level even as fear coursed through me. "Fascinating reading." He moved with startling speed, gripping my wrist so tightly I knew it would bruise. "Where are the files?" "Somewhere safe," I managed, wincing at the pain. "Along with recordings of you and Xavier discussing how to frame me for the securities fraud." His grip tightened, You're bluffing. The same way you're bluffing about Lily's boarding school? I found the acceptance letter. New Hampshire is a long way from Seattle, Nathan. Lily needs structure, discipline. Lily needs her mother, I interrupted. And to not be hidden away at age 5 so you can play happy family with your pregnant wife. Nathan released me with a shove that sent me stumbling backward. You've always been too emotional about Lily. This is why these decisions shouldn't be yours. And you've always been a manipulative fraud, I countered, rubbing my wrist. Tell me, does Vanessa know the baby isn't yours? Or is she playing along for Xavier's money like a good gold digger? His face contorted with rage. You think you're so clever. You have no idea what my father will do if these accusations go public. Peterson asked the same questions you're asking now. Are you threatening me? A cold smile replaced his anger. Consider it a friendly warning. If anything happens to this merger because of you, if any of those documents surface, you'll never see Lily again. My father has judges in his pocket, Eliza. You'll lose custody, your reputation, everything. Maybe you'll even have a tragic accident of your own. I fought to keep my expression neutral as my phone captured every word. So that's how it is. That's how it's always been. You were useful, Eliza, until you weren't. He straightened his tie. Sign the papers by Friday or face the consequences. After he left, I collapsed onto the couch, shaking uncontrollably. I replayed the recording 3 times, making copies to different secure servers Zora had established. Each threat, each admission, all evidence of what Nathan and his family were capable of. The next morning, Marcus met me at a coffee shop 15 blocks from our office. It's worse than we thought, he said, sliding a thumb drive across the table. I accessed Xavier's private server. They've been running a Ponzi scheme using our legitimate returns as cover. Half our Asian portfolio doesn't exist. I stared at him in horror. How many investors? Hundreds, including 3 pension funds. He leaned forward. Eliza, they're planning to pin everything on you. The paperwork transferring control of the Asian division to you was backdated to 18 months ago. Your electronic signature appears on everything. Thunder rumbled outside, matching the storm building inside me. We need to move up our timeline. My contact can have your new identities ready by tomorrow, Marcus confirmed. New Zealand is still the safest option. No extradition for financial crimes. And the money? Untraceable. I've created a trail showing Nathan authorized the transfers himself months ago, planning to disappear after the wedding. A text message interrupted us. The nanny I'd hired to watch Lily while I finalized our escape plan. Emergency. Lily fever 103. Taking her to UW Medical Center. My heart dropped. I have to go. I'll handle the rest, Marcus promised. Just get your daughter. At the hospital, Lily lay small and fragile against the white sheets, her normally rosy cheeks flushed with fever. Strep throat with complications, the doctor explained. She'll need to stay overnight for 4 antibiotics. I called Nathan, who answered from what sounded like a cocktail party, his wedding rehearsal dinner. Can't this wait? I'm in the middle of something important. Your daughter is in the hospital with a 103-degree fever, I hissed. Pause. Which hospital? UW Medical. I'll send my mother to check on her, he replied. I can't leave right now. Too many important investors here. I hung up without responding. 3 hours later, not Nathan but Vanessa appeared in the doorway of Lily's room. Nathan asked me to bring these, she said, offering a small bag containing a teddy bear and coloring book, both still with price tags attached. Clearly purchased in the hospital gift shop moments ago. How thoughtful, I replied coldly. Vanessa's hand smoothed over her pregnant belly in a gesture that seemed more territorial than maternal. I wanted to see her anyway. After all, she'll be my stepdaughter soon. And you'll be her stepmother for what? The 2 weeks before she's shipped off to boarding school? Her smile didn't falter. Nathan feels it's best for everyone. Children are so disruptive to a new marriage. And with our baby coming, my protective instincts flared. Get out. Excuse me. Get out of my daughter's room before I call security. She left with a smirk, but not before whispering, enjoy these last moments with her. After the wedding, Nathan's filing for emergency custody. You'll be lucky to get supervised visits. That night, as Lily slept fitfully beside me in the hospital bed, I finalized our escape plan. Xavier's hold over the Seattle legal system made fighting them impossible. Our only option was to disappear, with enough evidence to ensure they could never come after us. As dawn broke, I made my final decision. Nathan wouldn't just lose us, he would lose everything. The encrypted message from Marcus appeared on my burner phone at 2:17 a.m., 3 days before the wedding. Bishop Sr. knows something. Office swept for bugs this morning. Be careful. I deleted it immediately, my fingers hovering over the phone as I contemplated our next move. Xavier Bishop wasn't just Nathan's father. He was a former federal prosecutor with connections throughout Seattle's power structure. If he suspected our plan, everything could unravel. Lily shifted in her sleep beside me, finally fever-free after 2 nights in the hospital. Her small hand clutched mine even in slumber, as if afraid I might disappear. I kissed her forehead, breathing in the sweet scent of her hair, my resolve strengthening. The hospital room door opened quietly and I tensed, expecting Nathan or perhaps one of Xavier's men. Instead, Marcus slipped in, rain dripping from his coat. "We need to talk," he whispered, glancing at Lily. "Not here." In the empty waiting room down the hall, Marcus paced nervously. In the decade I'd known him, I'd never seen him this agitated. "I've been running my own investigation," he admitted. "Nathan isn't just cooking the books. He's laundering money for Xavier's political friends through our Asian subsidiaries." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I needed proof first." He ran a hand through his hair. 3 months ago I started documenting everything. Recording conversations, copying files. I was going to take it to the SEC. The realization dawned slowly. "You were building a case against Nathan before I even knew what was happening." He nodded grimly. "Then you discovered the fraud and I realized we could help each other. You want freedom from Nathan. I want protection from Xavier. Is that why you've been helping me?" A hint of doubt crept into my voice. "Partly," he admitted. "But mostly because what they're doing to you is unconscionable. Using your daughter as a pawn, framing you for their crimes. It's beyond despicable." A nurse passed by and we fell silent until she disappeared around the corner. "We need to accelerate everything," Marcus continued. "I've established a secure pipeline to transfer the remaining funds from Nathan's hidden accounts. 3 transfers over 3 days, ending during the wedding ceremony. Won't that be traceable? Not with the algorithm I've created. It'll appear as if Nathan himself authorized the transfers months ago. His golden parachute before the company implodes." I hesitated. "Marcus, if we do this, there's no going back. Not just for Nathan and Xavier, but for everyone at Bishop Financial. Hundreds of employees will lose their jobs." His expression hardened. "If we don't do this, you'll lose your daughter and we'll both likely face federal charges for crimes we didn't commit. At least this way the truth comes out." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Marcus had created a complex trail of transactions linking Nathan and Xavier directly to the fraud, while simultaneously extracting the money they'd stolen from investors. Money that would be held in escrow accounts for eventual restitution, minus the $2.7 million that was rightfully mine. Meanwhile, I had liquidated my personal assets, established new identities for Lily and myself, and prepared documentation proving my innocence, to be released after we were safely away. 2 days before the wedding, I returned home to gather the last of our essential belongings. The house felt strange. Already Vanessa had begun redecorating, replacing family photos with modern art, changing curtains, moving furniture. In Lily's room, I carefully selected her most treasured possessions. The quilt my mother had made before she died, the first edition of The Velveteen Rabbit, that Nathan had given her when she was born, back when he still claimed to love us both, and a small memory box containing her baby bracelet and first lock of hair. As I reached under her bed for her favorite stuffed elephant, my hand touched something unfamiliar. A small electronic device the size of a cigarette lighter. A listening device. My blood ran cold. How long had it been there? How much had they heard? I left it in place, continuing to pack as if nothing were wrong, now carefully monitoring my words and movements. "We'll have so much fun at Grandma's house while Daddy's on his honeymoon," I said loudly, establishing our cover story. That evening Nathan called, his voice unusually conciliatory. "Eliza, I've been thinking about Lily. Maybe boarding school isn't the right choice right now. Why don't we discuss other arrangements after the honeymoon? The sudden change in tactics confirmed my suspicions. They'd heard something, not everything but enough to make them wary. That would be nice, I replied, matching his friendly tone. Lily would be so happy to spend more time with you. After hanging up, I texted Marcus. They're on to something. House bugged. Nathan playing nice. His response was immediate. Security footage shows Vanessa entering your house yesterday with someone from Xavier's security team. Assume everything compromised. A complication but not insurmountable. I'd planned for contingencies. That night, Lily woke crying from another nightmare. The bad lady was taking me away from you again, she sobbed. I held her close, my heart breaking for the trauma she'd endured. No one is taking you away from me, sweetheart. I promise. Pinky promise? She extended her tiny finger. Pinky promise. I linked my finger with hers. You and me against the world always. As she drifted back to sleep, I made a final call to Zora. I need one more favor. Name it, she replied without hesitation. If something happens to me, deliver the evidence to these journalists. I gave her 3 names. And make sure Lily goes to my cousin in Toronto, not to Nathan. Nothing's going to happen to you, Zora insisted. But we both knew that when dealing with the Bishop family, nothing was certain. The morning of Nathan and Vanessa's wedding dawned with picture-perfect blue skies, the kind of Seattle day that locals treasure after months of gray. I stood at my condo window watching ferries cross Elliott Bay, my reflection in the glass looking calmer than I felt. My phone chimed with an encrypted message from our contact in New Zealand. Paperwork processed. Properties secured. Ready when you are. For a fleeting moment, I considered taking Lily and leaving immediately, avoiding the wedding entirely. But the final transfer was programmed to complete during the ceremony, and I needed to be there to confirm it personally. More importantly, our presence would allay any suspicions until we could get safely away. Mommy, do I look pretty? Lily twirled in her flower girl dress, a pale blue confection that Vanessa had insisted on, despite knowing that Lily hated frills. The prettiest girl in the world, I assured her, adjusting the little headband nestled in her blonde curls. Remember what we practiced? She nodded solemnly. Walk slowly. Throw petals. Smile at the cameras. And after the ceremony? Stay with you. Don't go with Daddy or the mean lady even if they have presents. My heart clenched. No 5-year-old should have to memorize safety protocols against her own father. That's right, sweetheart. Just one more day of playing pretend and then our adventure begins. The text from Marcus arrived as we were heading to the car. Xavier called emergency board meeting for Monday. They're making their move. Monday, just 2 days from now. We would be long gone by then, but it confirmed they were preparing to frame me formally. I deleted the message and drove to St. Andrew's Cathedral, where Seattle's elite were gathering to witness the society wedding of the year. Security was everywhere. Not just the typical wedding variety, but Xavier's private team, earpieces and all. One nodded curtly as I passed, his eyes tracking my movements. I smiled pleasantly, the DNA test and final transfer authorizations safely tucked in my purse alongside a small recorder. In the church vestibule, wedding coordinator Melanie intercepted us. Oh good, you're here. Vanessa was worried you might not come. Her eyes darted nervously between me and Lily. She asked that you sit in the family section, 3rd row. 3rd row, not the front where immediate family would normally sit. A final public reminder of my diminished status. Of course, I replied smoothly. Whatever makes the bride happy on her special day. Nathan appeared from a side room, resplendent in his tuxedo, looking every bit the successful businessman marrying his dream woman. His expression flickered with something unreadable when he saw us. Daddy. Lily ran to him, her earlier wariness momentarily forgotten. He knelt to hug her, and for a split second, I glimpsed the man I'd once loved, gentle, genuine, caring. Then his eyes met mine over her shoulder, cold and calculating once more. You look beautiful, princess, he told Lily before turning to me. Thank you for bringing her. And for understanding. The sheer audacity of his gratitude. As if I should be thankful he was allowing me to attend his wedding to another woman while plotting to take my child, nearly shattered my composure. I wouldn't miss it, I replied, my smile firmly in place. As guests filed in, I noticed several of Nathan's college friends watching me with pitying expressions. The poor discarded wife putting on a brave face. If only they knew. 10 minutes before the ceremony, my phone vibrated with a bank alert. The second transfer had completed successfully. One more to go. Mrs. Bishop? I turned to find myself face to face with Edward Matthews, Vanessa's father and, according to my research, a key investor in one of Xavier's shadier ventures. Mr. Matthews, I acknowledged, fighting to keep my voice steady. His eyes narrowed slightly. Have we met before? You seem familiar beyond the wedding preparations. A chill ran down my spine. Had he recognized me? I'd been careful to use a different name during my investigation into Xavier's dealings. Just one of those faces, I suppose, I demurred. Before he could respond, the organ began playing, signaling guests to take their seats. I ushered Lily toward the other flower girls and took my assigned place in the third row, next to Nathan's mother, Eleanor. Unlike her husband and son, Eleanor had always been kind to me, in her reserved, patrician way. She reached over now, squeezing my hand briefly. "You're a stronger woman than I," she whispered. "I should have left Xavier after the first affair, but I stayed for Nathan. Sometimes I wonder if that was my greatest mistake, showing him that betrayal should be tolerated." Before I could respond, the bridal march began. Lily proceeded down the aisle, dutifully scattering rose petals, her expression solemn. Then came Vanessa, radiant in designer silk, her pregnancy barely visible beneath expert tailoring. As she passed our row, her eyes met mine in a look of pure triumph. I smiled back serenely, knowing what she didn't, that her victory was built on quicksand. During the vows, I discreetly checked my phone. The final transfer had begun. $2.7 million moving through a series of offshore accounts before landing in my secure New Zealand holdings. By the time Nathan said, "I do," the transaction was complete. When the minister asked if anyone objected to the union, a hushed tension fell over the congregation. Several heads turned subtly in my direction. I remained perfectly still, my expression pleasantly neutral. Let them have their moment. After the ceremony, during the chaos of congratulations, I collected Lily and began making our way toward the exit. We were almost there when Nathan's hand closed around my arm. "Leaving so soon?" His voice was low, suspicious. "Lily's tired," I explained, which wasn't untrue. "We'll skip the reception if you don't mind." His grip tightened. "Actually, I do mind. There are people who want to see her. Family photos to take." "Let go of my arm, Nathan," I said quietly. "Yow." Perhaps it was my tone or the fact that several guests were watching, but he released me, his expression darkening. "This isn't over, Eliza." How right he was, though not in the way he imagined. As we walked into the sunlight, my phone chimed with Marcus's confirmation. All transfers complete. Evidence packets delivered to SEC and FBI. Timers set for Monday morning. You're clear to go. I took Lily's hand, leading her away from the church, away from Nathan, away from the life we were leaving behind. Adventure time, she whispered excitedly. Adventure time, I confirmed, not looking back. The moment we reached our car, I switched into escape mode. My hands moved with practiced precision, replacing our phones with burners, changing Lily into the plain clothes hidden in my bag, pinning her distinctive blonde hair under a dark cap. Remember our spy game? I asked as I helped her into the booster seat. She nodded eagerly. I'm Sophia and you're Claire. We're super secret agents on a mission. That's right, sweetheart. And what's rule number 1 for secret agents? Follow the plan exactly, she recited, her expression suddenly serious beyond her years. I drove carefully, obeying every traffic law, taking the predetermined route that would trigger the fewest surveillance cameras. Seattle spread out around us, familiar streets and landmarks I might never see again. At the downtown parking garage, I left our car on the 3rd level, to be collected later by Zora, who would abandon it at the Canadian border as a false trail. We took the elevator down, emerging onto a busy street where we blended with weekend shoppers. 3 blocks away, I hailed a taxi with a practiced casualness that belied the rapid beating of my heart. Waterfront Park, please. As we pulled away, I spotted Xavier's security man from the wedding, scanning the sidewalk with intent focus. Had they already realized we were gone? I tucked Lily closer to my side, angling my face away from the window. She sensed my tension, remaining unusually quiet. At the waterfront, we switched to a pre-booked rideshare that took us to a small cafe in Ballard, where we waited precisely 17 minutes before Marcus's sister arrived in her family minivan. "Everything set?" she asked, helping us into the back where child seats were already installed. Perfect camouflage for a family outing. "On schedule," I confirmed, checking my watch. 3 hours since we'd left the wedding. Nathan would be in full reception mode, probably not missing us yet. As we drove toward the residential neighborhood of Magnolia, Lily pulled a folded paper from her pocket. "I made this for you, Mommy." It was a crayon drawing of 2 stick figures, one tall, one small, standing on what appeared to be a beach with palm trees. "Our new adventure," was written across the top in wobbly capital letters. My throat tightened. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. See the dolphins?" She pointed to blue scribbles in one corner. "You said there are dolphins where we're going." "Lots of dolphins," I promised, tucking the drawing carefully into my bag. Jennifer, Marcus's sister, glanced at us in the rearview mirror. "Marcus said to tell you the packages have been delivered. Time-locked email account set to activate Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern." The packages contained comprehensive evidence of Nathan and Xavier's financial crimes, along with documentation of my innocence, delivered to the SEC, FBI, and 3 trusted journalists. By the time they realized what had happened, the story would be breaking across multiple channels simultaneously. Too big to bury. "And the other matter?" I asked quietly. "Taken care of. The trust fund is established in Lily's name, untouchable by anyone but her after she turns 21. The remaining funds are in the escrow account for victim restitution as you specified." I nodded, satisfaction mixing with a strange melancholy. Everything I'd built with Nathan over 10 years. Our companies, our investments, our life together, reduced to trust agreements and evidence packets. We arrived at a modest Magnolia home where Zora waited with our final disguises and documentation. Professional-grade wigs transformed us. Dark brown for me, auburn for Lily. Colored contacts changed my eyes from green to brown. Even our gates were altered with carefully placed shoe inserts. "You look amazing," Zora declared, stepping back to assess her work. "I wouldn't recognize you, and I know exactly what I did." "What about you?" I asked, concerned for her safety when the bishops realized she'd helped us. He grinned. "By this time tomorrow, I'll be in Tokyo starting my new cybersecurity job. Ironically, offered to me by one of Xavier's competitors." Our next driver arrived precisely on schedule. A retired flight attendant who owed Marcus a favor. She would accompany us to SeaTac as a grandmother traveling with her daughter and granddaughter. 3 generations, utterly unremarkable. As we prepared to leave, my burner phone vibrated. The text from Marcus was brief. "And looking for you. Called twice. Getting suspicious. Sooner than expected." I checked my watch. Still 4 hours until our flight. Too long to stay in one place. "Change of plans," I announced. "We need to move up the timeline." Zora nodded, immediately making calls. 20 minutes later we were in an airport employee shuttle, bypassing the main terminals entirely. Zora's cousin Diego, a baggage handler, led us through service corridors into the international terminal. "Security checkpoint ahead," he warned. "Your boarding passes will scan, but it's the human element we need to worry about." This was the most dangerous part of our escape. The moment when facial recognition technology or an alert TSA agent could flag us. I squeezed Lily's hand reassuringly, though my own palms were slick with sweat. "Sophia, remember what happens in the security line?" I whispered. "I get cranky and tired," she recited. "I ask for my bunny a lot and rub my eyes." Perfect. A fussy, overtired child draws attention to herself, not to the mother trying to manage her. One of many psychological tricks Reyes had taught me. At the checkpoint, Lily performed flawlessly, whining convincingly about her missing toy while I apologized to everyone within earshot. The TSA agent barely glanced at our passports, too eager to move us through and restore calm. We were halfway to our gate when I spotted them, 2 of Xavier's security team showing photos to airport staff. One pointed in our direction, frowning. "Mommy," Lily whispered, clutching my hand. "The bad men from Grandpa's house." "It's okay," I assured her, smoothly altering our course toward the restrooms. Inside, I quickly unpacked our backup disguises, switching Lily's auburn wig for a black one, changing our outerwear. When we emerged, I steered us toward a different gate where a flight to Los Angeles was boarding, the first leg of our decoy route. We stood in the pre-boarding line just long enough to be noticed, then slipped away when the agents were occupied. By the time we reached our actual gate, boarding had begun. As we joined the line, my phone vibrated one final time, and just received fraud alert from HK Bank. He knows. Hurry. The timing was perfect. Nathan discovering the missing millions just as we were leaving the country. By tomorrow, his legal problems would eclipse any concern about finding us. Final boarding call for Air New Zealand Flight 29, announced the gate agent. I handed over our boarding passes, heart pounding as the scanner beeped green. We were escorted down the jetway, Lily's hand warm in mine. "Mommy," she whispered as we settled into our seats, "are the bad men going to follow us?" I buckled her seatbelt, then my own. "No, sweetheart. We're safe now." As the plane taxied away from the gate, my phone lit up with a call from Nathan. I powered it off, dropped it into my water glass and watched it short out, the final severing of our old life. Through the window, Seattle's skyline grew smaller, then disappeared into clouds as we ascended toward freedom. 6 months later, I stood barefoot on the deck of our beachfront cottage, watching the sun rise over the Tasman Sea. Below, waves crashed against volcanic rock formations, sending spray dancing into the early morning light. In the distance, a pod of dolphins moved through the water, just as I'd promised Lily. I turned to find Sophie, our neighbor from 2 cottages down, offering a steaming mug. A retired literature professor who'd moved to New Zealand's Coromandel Peninsula to write the novel that's been haunting me for 30 years. She'd become something of a surrogate mother to me. "Thanks. Any news?" I asked, accepting the coffee. Sophie held up her tablet. "It's official. Nathan Bishop sentenced to 15 years for securities fraud, money laundering, and obstruction of justice. His father got 12. The article mentions the whistleblower evidence that broke the case wide open." I skimmed the article, a strange emptiness replacing what I'd once thought would be satisfaction. The Bishop financial empire had collapsed spectacularly, with Nathan's and Xavier's crimes splashed across financial news for weeks. Their political connections hadn't saved them. In fact, 2 senators and a federal judge had resigned in the scandal's wake. "Claire." Sophie used my new name with practiced ease. "Are you all right?" "Just processing," I replied. "It feels like someone else's story now." And in many ways it was. Claire Edwards, independent financial consultant with a daughter named Sophia, bore little resemblance to Eliza Bishop, betrayed wife and corporate scapegoat. My hair had grown out in its natural brown after I'd stopped dyeing it blonde to please Nathan. The coastal air had given my skin a healthy glow. Even my posture had changed, shoulders back, head high, without the tension I'd carried for years. Mommy, come see what I found." Lily, no, Sophia now, came racing up the beach path, her formerly blonde hair now a light brown like mine, her cheeks flushed with excitement. In her cupped hands she carried a perfect spiral shell, iridescent in the morning light. "It's a nautilus," she exclaimed. "Just like in my science book." I knelt to examine her treasure. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Should we add it to your collection?" She nodded enthusiastically. "Miss Curie says nautilus shells are special because they keep growing new chambers their whole lives. They never have to leave their homes behind like we did." My heart clenched at her matter-of-fact reference to our past. "Children are remarkably resilient," her therapist had assured me. "Especially when surrounded by stability and love." And stable we were. Our modest cottage, purchased through an LLC established months before our escape, sat on a secluded stretch of coastline. I worked remotely as a financial consultant for small businesses, many of them local. Sophia attended the village school where she was thriving, making friends, learning Maori phrases, collecting shells, and gradually forgetting the nightmares that had plagued her in Seattle. After breakfast, I walked Sophia to school, enjoying the simple pleasure of holding her hand without looking over my shoulder. The small coastal community had embraced us, the quiet American widow and her daughter, starting fresh after tragedy. Close enough to the truth to be convincing. In my home office, I logged into my encrypted email to find a message from Marcus, now living in Singapore under a new identity. Final distribution to Bishop financial victims completed. Trust funds secure. V remarried last month. JB ironically enough. Thought you'd want to know. Vanessa had married James after all. Nathan's brother and her baby's actual father. The perfect twisted ending to their saga. I closed the email and turned to my legitimate work, reviewing a business plan for a local ecotourism venture. Around midday, I walked into the village to meet with the owners of a struggling cafe I was helping to restructure. Claire, called Martha, the cafe proprietor, waving from her outdoor table. I've implemented those inventory changes you suggested. Already seeing a difference. That's wonderful, I replied, genuinely pleased. Using my financial expertise to help small business owners was deeply satisfying. Honest work without the manipulation and fraud that had tainted Bishop Financial. After our meeting, I stopped by the post office to collect our mail. Among the usual bills and local flyers was a large manila envelope with no return address. Inside, I found divorce papers finally processed by the Seattle courts. Nathan had signed them from prison. Attached was a single note in unfamiliar handwriting. These were among my son's effects. I thought you should have them. Eleanor Bishop. No recriminations. No threats. Just closure, offered by the one bishop who had shown me kindness. Beneath the divorce papers lay another document. A trust fund established in Lily's real name, separate from the one I'd created. The benefactor was listed as Eleanor Bishop. A grandmother's legacy, untainted by her husband and son's crimes. That evening, as Sophia built an elaborate sand castle at the water's edge, I sat watching her, the divorce papers long since signed and ready to mail back. Your castle needs a moat, called a familiar voice. I turned to see David approaching, the local marine biologist who'd been gradually working his way into our lives with patient kindness. Sophia adored him for his endless knowledge of sea creatures. I appreciated his quiet respect for our boundaries. I thought you were cataloging tide pools today, I said as he sat beside me on the sand. Finished early. He handed Sophia a perfect sand dollar for her castle decoration. Thought I'd see if you two wanted to join me for fish and chips at the wharf. 6 months ago I would have declined automatically, my trust too shattered to consider letting someone new into our carefully constructed world. Now I found myself hesitating, then nodding. We'd like that, wouldn't we, Sophia? Yes, she cheered, abandoning her castle to take David's offered hand. Can we watch the fishing boats come in again? As we walked along the shore, Sophia between us, I realized I was smiling. Not the carefully composed smile I'd worn in my former life, but something genuine and unguarded. Later that night, after Sophia was asleep, I stood on our deck watching moonlight shimmer across the water. From the small box where I kept our few connections to the past, I withdrew the last photo taken of Nathan, Lily and me together. A Christmas portrait from the year before everything collapsed. We looked happy. Perhaps in that moment we had been. But the foundation had been built on lies. Nathan's financial fraud, his emotional manipulation, his family's corruption. I thought of Nathan in his prison cell, of Vanessa with her new husband, of Xavier stripped of his power and prestige. I had once wanted revenge, had orchestrated their downfall with meticulous precision. Now I felt only relief at our escape. I tore the photo in half, then quarters, then smaller still, until it was confetti carried away by the ocean breeze. Some things can't be understood until they're lost forever, I whispered to the night. But some things could be found again. Trust, safety, joy. Different from before, but perhaps stronger for having been broken and carefully reassembled. Like Sophia's collected shells, beautiful in their imperfection. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to build the life we deserved. Not as victims or fugitives, but as survivors growing stronger with each passing day.